Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And first up is the Pledge of Allegiance with the kids from Coolidge.
Public for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
And this perfect lead into our recognition for this month. And so welcome to Coolidge Elementary and Principal Kelly Bow.
I have two guests tonight. I have some guests with me tonight. And so first of all, I am Kelly Bow, for anyone who doesn't know me. I am the proud principal at Calvin Coolidge. And with me tonight, I have Sue Tracy and Andrea Booth, who are also part of our staff at Coolidge. And we're here to celebrate something about our school community. And so tonight, what we're choosing to be proud of and celebrate with you all is our Calvin Coolidge Community Garden. And so my ladies here are instrumental into the success of our garden, as is some other parties that couldn't be here today, but we really wanted to come in and share that work with you. Okay. So the Urban Farm Grant was something we applied for about a year ago, and we were awarded a little more than $10,000 to get it started. And I personally am not an experienced gardener, so that was a little bit like, ooh, what do we do with this, you know? And so we started with a committee, and if anyone, I know their urban farm grants are popping up all over the area, and I have to say, it's been a wonderful learning experience for our school and for me and for my staff and our kiddos. So we started with that. We made a committee once we got awarded, and the committee is awesome. And is there a clicker up here for me to use, or do you guys click for me? Okay. So this is the part that I was hoping these guys would speak to begin with, because it really did start with the work from our staff.
Well, I can say this was the two hottest days of the year. It was the last 2 days of the school year, and Mr. Naparella had his two kids out there with us, and we built we have 3 beds, and we had to fill them, and so that's what we did, and it was a ton of that.
And so we got all the equipment that we needed. We started with our seeds and pre-K. Cheryl Purse there is a pre-K TA, and they had their classrooms contribute to helping get the seeds started and so forth. And so then next we have some of our faculty that was part of that work. And so those are the beds that we created. All of those plants came in 3 garden towers that we had in our school. We have 1 in the library, 2 in the classrooms. And so the staff, through the process was trying to, make it educational for kids and letting kids get excited about watching the plants grow and so forth. And so some of the things that were planted specifically, I'm going to have them speak to, because what happened was over the summer, we were unable to occupy our building, so we had our staff coming in a lot over the summer to do a lot of the grunt work with gardening. The plus is we will be in our building this summer, so if we can continue doing that, we usually have Urban League that works out of our building, so the goal is to have them help us with that this summer.
Just all the stuff you planted.
Oh my gosh, we planted, we had like you see collard greens and a lot of squash. We had the Swiss chard. We had lettuce, a lot of tomatoes. We were harvesting, what did we harvest? Our last little bit of tomatoes. I was giving them away at the trunk or treat. Trunk or treat, right? So that was the last time I handed out tomatoes. So, and well, you'll see more about what we gave away, but we also had some stuff from the Vines Community Gardens involved, because I'm involved with that. So they helped us with that a little bit, because we were still learning, and so we had a little bit of not success, but mostly success. So
we persevered. We persevered.
Right through
this is proof.
So, and the kids enjoyed it. It was great.
And, we took a lot of pictures throughout just to, celebrate them. We were sharing it on social media for our community. There's Eliza's Blessing box on the east side that the donations were being made to throughout the summer, as well as the Fairview Methodist Church that is across the street from us. They have a food pantry, so we were bringing items there. And then when we'd have some extra crops, we would have them out in baskets in the front of the building so that anyone could come. And a lot of community members that maybe were former Calvin Coolidge students would stop at the garden too, and even gave us things to additionally plant in the garden, which was nice because some of them were, back in school there in like 1960s. So, next slide. Here are some of our kids that were out there, that our students and the aides. They took stuff home to their families. They had a club at lunchtime that Miss Tracy would just invite any kids who wanted to come do the pickings out of the garden. They would come and work with her and put things in a basket and set them up in the front of the school for dismissal, and they would take some home to their families.
I had to be careful too, because they did do a little bit of work as well, so it wasn't all just fun picking. I did have them help me weed and things. So
yeah, they loved it. So lots of teamwork, and over on the right here is an example of the towers that we started with. So all of our plants started in those towers and then got transplanted out into the beds. And so there was a lot of smiling faces and a lot of pride and a lot to be proud of. So lots of teamwork and relationships with some community members. You have our custodian out there, you have the blessing box, you have a mother and daughter that just enjoyed a former student and middle school student now who would come over the summer, and he would see some of the staff out in the garden, help out and take some home to his family. And just some of the things they were doing. This is one of our families, the Moore family, and it's showing, kind of some meals that they prepared with the items from our garden. And in this particular family, Mrs. Moore works in our building, and she has 3 boys in our school too, so it's nice to bring that homework together. And then they really just enjoyed the whole concept.
So that was actually 3 different people, like the Moore family is on the top, and then somebody sent me a picture of the beautiful soup that they made with the kale in the picture on the bottom, and then another neighbor got tomatoes and basil, and so they made a nice little plate there, so I'll just put the pictures there. So that was a lot of different families.
And this was a video that I hope that we can get to work for you. This is going to be Mrs. Brower, and she was talking us through one of her recipes.
There's the small ones from Pakistan. They're ready. And what was left from the big ones, I put on sandwich. I used the sriracha mayo like I told you, but today is onion. So, yeah, you want to be talking to me after that. Thank you so much, because I love it.
So, she's our phys ed teacher and she is our health guru, so we got the stamp of approval for healthiness and well-being. And the whole experience was just really remarkable, since it was something that our faculty took so much pride in, and the kids could see that and joined us, and a lot of the families really appreciated it. So that's our celebration for this year.
You want to talk about moving forward?
Moving forward, I'm going to turn it back over to these ladies.
Moving forward, as soon as we get back from break, we're ready to go again, because the growing towers, that's inside, so they have lights and we can do it all year. So we're going to have greens growing during the winter time, and then we'll be ready to start it off again when we can go outside. So we are not done.
Nope.
We're just going
to get better this time.
Yes, and much more student involvement. Like when we come back, the students will be more involved with the planting than they were, because
On
again,
our
we're just
trial
learning and
run.
growing with the
Yeah.
thing, yeah, so.
So thank you all for letting us share that with you.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you, Kelly. Kelly, can I ask you a question? Have you thought about reaching out to Vines and doing a collaboration?
So she already kind of works with Vine, Sue does, and so they offer us any type of support that we want to do, and same with Cornell Cooperative Extension. They've been part of this planning with us as well.
Because we did have Vines come in for initial meetings before we even got going. Remember, Amelia came
help
and
us.
so they helped, and they've given us seeds and plants to replace some that didn't make it.
And Agway's been very giving as well, so a lot of community support.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is the public comment portion of the meeting. Is there anyone who would like to come up and speak? If not, I won't go over the rules and make no point. Okay, yes. So you will have 3 minutes to address the board. And when you come up and before you begin, just state your name, your relationship to the district, and I'll keep time. We'll probably be a little bit lenient. There's not a lot of people here, so there's really no need to be a stickler on the time, but we'll keep it close to the 3 minutes. And feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hello, my name is Yusuf Razak. I'm a senior for the Binghamton High School, and I play at the Binghamton varsity basketball team.
My name is Derek Abdul. I'm a three-sport athlete. I'm a graduate of, 2025 when I graduate.
Hi, my name is Nevaeh Martin, and I'm a high school senior, and I'm a three-sport varsity athlete. And we're here to address the pricing for admissions at the games. We're all here representing like our fellow peers and athletes at Binghamton High School, and we just feel like the pricing is like not reasonable for many families and people who want to support Binghamton athletics. The mission statement here at Binghamton is believe, belong, become, but we feel that students don't believe they belong if they can't afford to get into the games. We are one of the most diverse districts out there, and not only racially but economically, and we just feel that the $4 people are being charged for families is not reasonable. We got it down to $2 for students, but $4 still for like the 20 weeks basketball is in season, so from November to March, plus football season, which the prices weren't changed yet, so that's another additional 10 weeks for $4. And not only that, but the payment is only online, so it kind of limits a lot of people from paying. A lot of people only have cash, or it's easy to scrape up maybe quarters or pennies or change, but not every kid has a credit card to do that. I've witnessed kids stand outside the doors of the high school and beg people like, can you pay for me to get in and we'll give you cash? And we're just like here to talk about it, to try to get it changed, I guess. No other school near us really charges for games. I've been to football games, lacrosse games, basketball games, and no other school is charging that much, let alone just online payment. And it really kind of limits students for participating and families for supporting Binghamton athletics. We've received over 360 signatures from administration, families, students, staff to support that the prices are getting a little up there. And we just want everybody to be accessible and to be able to come support our games. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
for listening.
I will just say briefly, this at this point in the meeting, it's typically when we take comments only and there's no dialogue from us as the board, but rather than just let that go, which feels sort of dismissive, I just want to share that some of us that were named on the change.org petition had a chance to receive that and take a look at it, and it's something we are talking about, so an update I'm sure will come at some point. But thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah, thank you for coming. You referenced the message that went out in response, but only parts of it. So I'll make sure that I circle back and through Ms. Hampton have a conversation with all of you. Okay, we can continue the conversation. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up and speak? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion of the meeting, or at least the first public comment portion, and move on to the next item, which is approval of the minutes from the work session and regular meeting held November 19th, 2024, and the minutes from the special meeting held last week, December 11th. Can I have a motion to approve and accept the minutes? Moved by Tim, seconded by Liza. All in favor? Aye. Carries unanimously. It brings us to item 6A, the financial report for the month of November 2024. Are there any questions or comments regarding the financial report? Seeing none, that takes us to 7A, unfinished business. So we have 1, 2, 3 policies that are up for a second read tonight, which means they were here for a first read last month. 5681, school safety plans, 5683, evacuation, lockdown, and emergency dismissal drills, and 7132, non-resident students. There's no changes to these policies in terms of the red lines that we saw last month. No additional changes, so maybe not a lot to talk about, but just offer it up if anybody has any questions or comments. Please make that known now. Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the first read of policies 6550, leaves of absence, and 7220, graduation requirements. I can just tell you the changes on these range from very, very minimal to more substantial. 6550, the policy on leaves of absence, just had a few minor blue lines in the section that referred to lactation, and the policy with graduation requirements is certainly going to be subject to a greater degree of changes given what's happening on the state level with respect to changes to graduation requirements that are going to be at some point implemented statewide. So quite a lot of red lines in 7220, and the big thrust of it is directing people to the website where this information is going to be shared at some point once there's consensus and approval on whatever the new requirements are going to be. Are there any questions or comments on these two policies that are up for the first read? Okay, that takes us to a presentation on the Behavior Task Force. So we'll have Eric Wilson, Tia Rodriguez, Paula Grassi, and Nicole Keener. Vanderpool, sorry. Just reading it off fashioned notepad, sorry.
So the Behavior Task Force is really our proactive way of addressing student behaviors at all levels, from the elementary through the high school. And the strategies and the focus that the task force has this year really emphasizes that, and measuring how successful the interventions that we've put in place are being. I'm going to turn it over to Tia, who is really kind of running the task force.
Oh, well. So
thank you, Eric. Before you jump in, I also just want to use the board a little more context. So the behavior task was originally crafted when we put the code of conduct in place. So each year, their job is, if there's any issues with the code of conduct, if there's a question about it, if something's not working, that group is to take that piece on. If they're seeing trends in the discipline, is our code of conduct clear? We need to add more interventions. Over time, they become really experts in forecasting that. And so Tia is going to share right now what this year's objectives are, but the overarching objective is really to support our code of conduct. And it came about 9 years ago when we were revising the code of conduct, and we said, how do we make sure that this is a living document? You know, what's our commitment as a district? And so we put a task force in place as opposed to a district committee. So just wanted to explain to the board, so we have some new board members, why is this called task force versus committees? Thank you for that.
So Tanya took a couple of things I was going to say from our first page. I'm just teasing, but yes, I've been on this committee for 9 years, so I've seen this committee do some amazing things, and just some incredible impacts that it has on our students and our families. This year, I'm proud to be part of the committee with Nicole Vanderpool, Paula Grassi, and Eric Wilson as co-chairs. Our task force really consists of teachers, staff members, board members. It's truly a fine combination of our demographics of our community. This year, our objectives, though, so we've gone from the code of conduct to bus reports to pretty much everything and all encompassing that we do on the behavior task force. But this year, we're really trying to get under the umbrella of MTSS. And we really want to support our buildings with implementing MTSS in EduClimber. So we've all been trained. We've had Kyle come in and Mike Simons to talk about what EduClimber looks like. They've trained the task force. And really, like Tanya said, we are here to develop interventions and track intervention data. We have been for the 9 years that I've been on this task force. But this year, we're really, truly using EduClimber to help students find the ways to self-regulate and interact positively within a school setting. So again, this year, our objective is to focus on social emotional learning data, what are our SST teams doing, and positive behavioral supports and restorative practices. So just like I said, we are really under that MTSS umbrella. And the behavior task force for this year, and again, like I said, we've done some very impactful things for our community over the 9 years that I've been on the team. This year, our focus is going to help monitor the implementation of our student support teams, and that's huge. What do they look like? How are they running? And how can we as a task force help them to run with efficacy? The student support, oh, that's good. That was fantastic. I'm going to pass it on to
Can I just pause for
yes,
1 second, just because you know this stuff at the back of your hand, and you're also come from the world of acronyms. So, MTSS, could you just for the board define what that means, what RTIS, and just go a little more into the graphic, because I know what you're talking about. I know you know what you're talking about, but I want to make sure everybody else is understanding.
MTSS is multi-tiered systems of support, and that is our big umbrella. So when you think of that, it goes from top down, and the other interventions and programs and resources we put in place fall under that, which we're already doing. It's just kind of making it all cohesive together. So RTI is response to intervention, and SST is our student support teams. Those are individual to each building and what they look like. However, we're going to get a little bit more into that as we go into the next slides. PBIS is positive behavior intervention and support. That is what a lot of our schools are doing so that we can put those strategies and systems in place to positively support our students rather than just kind of jumping to a punishment or a consequence or something like that. What can we put in place that is a positive for them that they look forward to help improve behaviors, academics, and attendance? And then SEL is social emotional learning, and that falls under the umbrella of mental health as well. So the purpose of student support teams, like I said, they're individual to each building. And this is to ensure that students who have challenges that impact their behavior, attendance, even their basic needs are receiving adequate support. And so a lot of it looks different depending on what building you're in. Some have social workers and psychologists, others have teachers that sit on it, admin, nurses, and most importantly, our DSS liaisons. They are a big piece of this as well because they help connect us to that community support, especially for those students that are needing the basic health needs that we might not be able to get them within our school. And so our teams are responsible for coordinating and monitoring interventions that are put in place from the student support team and connecting with our community partners as well. So it might not just be DSS, it could be SPOA, it could be other agencies that we have out there. And this provides the necessary supports and services to all of our students in each of our buildings. And so what we've been doing is now that we have EduClimber, we have a place to gather all of our information so that it's cohesive, but we can also not only share it, but as Kyle Skinner has helped us out, he is able to see it as well to help our teams move forward and answer any questions we might have. We do have a form that's been created on EduClimber in our meeting minutes, and this is taken every single time that we have a meeting. And we met as a committee over the summer, a few administrators, teachers, social workers, and we decided what was it that we wanted our student support teams to look like and answer questions on. And so we broke down what are the biggest things that a student would be referred to. And so that was attendance, basic needs, and behaviors, and that's part of our form. And so really, we're looking to see which student needs to be targeted. Our teachers can fill these out, or staff members within our building, and they're going to click on those boxes. From there, it creates drop downs, and they can go into more depth and detail. We do still take feedback because this is new and something that we just started. And so we are looking for feedback from teachers. Some of the more recent one we've gotten is that it's a little bit geared toward middle and high school students. And as an elementary administrator, I've also noticed that some of the things on there aren't as applicable to us. So we take that and go back and work with Emily Daybeck as well to kind of move things around in the form and make it work for us. And so we review these referral forms that we created at our meetings, which look different in every building. Some are on certain cycle days, some have them every Wednesday. It really is just what works for the team. And from there, that's where we discuss the student needs that are brought to the table. And this is where it's really important to kind of have a good team in place that has a good understanding of the student as a whole. And so that's why we have the social workers, we have school psychologists if they're available, administrators, and even if possible, we like to try to cover the teacher that placed the referral so that we can get more information. And once we get our notes taken on why the student is referred and what they're referred for, from there we work together as a team to recommend and implement interventions. And so if it's behavioral, we look at what has been put in place on the tier 1 level, so within the classroom, and if not, what can we do to support them? Do we refer them to our PBIS committee to see do they need check-in and check-out? So once again, the support team is linking with PBIS, and it's continuing to fall under that umbrella of MTSS. And we continue to progress monitor and set goals. And within these sheets, everything is saved. And so then when we come back at our next meeting, everything's up there and we keep a running record on our students to see where we're at and if we need to continue or if they are all set. And so this is just a little bit of a nicer picture of what I just described. And so you have our referral process for the student support team meeting. And so this is where it's communicated from the staff, and we start the process with that form. It gets referred to us. We make sure that we intervene. So what interventions does the student need in place? If it's attendance, what can we do to help? And then we progress monitor and we take data, and whether it's us as a team, the classroom teacher, or like a check-in, check-out coach, we use paperwork and they input the data for us. That's what we look at each time. We continue to discuss the student and put other interventions in place to make sure that we're supporting and meeting all of their needs. And then from there we decide, do we need to refer the student to an outside agency? Do we need to continue to provide interventions, or do we need to take a step back and look at other things the student might need? Or have we succeeded? Has the student gotten what they need so that they are successful in those areas? And then the process continues from there. I don't think that's the end.
No. That was long.
As you're going to the next slide, Nicole, just to clarify, you're going to start to think, say some.
It is.
The student support team is a tier 3. You want to just talk a little bit more about that in terms of wrapping a whole group surrounding students, because when you think about the number of students who are engaged in this process now, it doesn't nearly match the number of students that Nicole might be supporting on a day as an assistant principal. So could you talk a little bit more about when that happens, or Paula?
Well, I'm not going to answer that, but I wanted to give you some of the data that, sorry, it's not on there, but it was. Currently, we have 89 students, K8, I'm going to say. The high school's numbers are not on there. We are still developing the teams at the high school, formalizing developing the teams. Just as some background information, based on how the alphabet is set up and how we monitor kids, with 7 guidance counselors, the team leads really are the administrators on their, based on their alphabetical breakup. So we are more formally setting up our systems to model after the elementary, who's doing a very good job, and the middle school, who's also developing, but further ahead than us. So as I said, there's 89 students. currently being monitored, the vast majority of those students are K-5 because their teams are really well established and they're doing a great job. So we're building that system at the high school as well. Middle schools are doing the same. If you were able to see some of the data, you'll see that as the students get bigger, some of the infractions get bigger. So most of the infractions that we're monitoring, level 2 and 3, are really 6 through 11 grade, right? Seniors, it drops down, TK, not a whole lot, but really 6th through 11th grade is where we're seeing a lot of the level 2 and level 3 behaviors coming out. So I would say one of our goals, high school, middle school wide, is as we further develop our teams, model it more like the elementaries, establish plans, that we're going to start seeing a reduction in level 2s and 3s based on the amount of interventions that we're able to implement, monitor, and use this EduClimber system to really identify if it's working and what we need to tweak to make it work better for our kids to be successful. Sorry, level 3. It makes sense now. Go ahead.
Level 3. So when we think of tiered interventions, right, so that multi-tiered system of support, your level 1 is going to be something that should be happening every single day in our school, in the classroom. So those are things that might be flexible seating, it might be a buddy partner, it's things that you would think of that you would put in support for that student. If that is not working, we then look at level 2. What interventions do they need? Do they need a different type of monitoring system? Do they need breaks? Do they need to have some sort of pull-out or push-in? As far as just academics go, behaviorally, do we need to support them through check-in, check-out? Do they need to have a buddy partner or a teacher that they can go to? If that's then not working and we still continue to see a rise in whether it be classroom incidents or referrals, then that is when most of the students will be brought to the student support team. So really that level 3 is that highest tier of intervention. So that is where we have tried all of our other levels and we might not be seeing success with that. And so it's not going to be every student that is receiving this intervention. It is just the ones that have that need. And so that is why it is academic, behavioral, and basic needs, because we do have some students that might need to go see the nurse every now and then, but the basic needs have been getting in the way of the student being able to learn, or maybe it is causing behaviors. And so if we've put stuff in place that still isn't supporting them, that's when we go to this level of tier 3. So that's something that not every student gets, but it's that on the pyramid, it's that very top triangle. Yeah.
Questions?
And just the 89 K5, are they level 2 and 3, or how?
Yeah, so
are
we
they all
don't,
level
the
3,
level
or?
1s are our classroom incidents, so those aren't considered in that. Those are like the minor infractions. So that is the level 2s and the level 3s based off of our code of conduct referrals.
Okay. And then early in the slides, it was saying that this committee also deals with the overall well-being of students. And I know, except I'm going to get the name wrong, but remember there was a survey that all the kids did, and it came out that there was kind of a high percentage of kids saying they didn't feel safe at school. Is that something this committee would look at, or has looked at, or doing something about?
Not just this committee,
Yeah.
but I think like it depends. Like I know at MacArthur, like we look at a lot at that through our SLT team. We looked a lot at that data, and then some of our members who are on that are also on SST, and so we're able to bridge that and bring it to them. But our shared leadership team, I know specifically if it's the co-vitality survey you're referring to, was looked at through that committee for us. But
Thank you.
So in addition, our team consists of our social emotional liaisons and our restorative coaches. So they're bringing that information and data back to the task force meetings. And we're, I don't like to use the word accountable, but we're asking people to share that information and that data with us so that we can formulate a plan and move forward on how we can help our students in each building at the individual level.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Anything else? I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're not going.
I'm going this too.
Say, Tia, we'll keep you up here and roll in velvet for the district special education plan.
I've been on this committee for 7 years. Okay, talking into the mic. I'm not very good at talking in the mic, I'm very loud.
We have people online, so we don't really make sense.
Okay, so today we're bringing you the Binghamton City School District Special Education Plan from 2025 to 2027 snapshot. And today we're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to talk about our continuum of services, our enrollment information, and some data that comes with that. And we're also going to talk about some resources that our special education department has to offer.
So our continuum of services here in Binghamton, we have a robust continuum of services. We have services that are being implemented within the general education classroom. So this could be something as simple as students having a 504 plan, which really is not special ed, but they could be accessing some modifications and accommodations in the classroom. Some of our students might have an IEP that have related services. The majority of our students in Binghamton are in general education classroom with different levels of supports. As we look to increase those supports, this is when we start looking at specially designed instruction, which is being offered by special education teachers. So these are teachers that are there to help look at modifying curriculum or adjusting the pace of instruction and working directly with students, either one-to-one or in a small group setting, to provide that specially designed instruction, which is really giving the children what they need based on what their assessment data tells them. For students that still struggle though with that and aren't making enough gains, we might consider moving to a resource room environment. This is pulling students into a small group setting where that group is usually capped at 5 students per New York State regulations. Special education teacher is working with the students, usually working on building those skills that they need to make progress within the general education classroom when they return back there. So this might be highlighting and targeting specific gaps in instruction, but also on the social emotional piece, it might be working on social stories and helping to teach coping skills in conjunction with the related service of psychological counseling. So a lot can happen within that resource room setting. When students start exhausting those resources of what's in the general education setting, then we might look to a self-contained classroom or special class. At the elementary, we have 7 classrooms, we have 8 classrooms at middle school, and then we have a variety of special class at the high school with Regents Prep classrooms and our PALS classrooms. So again, we do have a pretty robust continuum of services. Looking at those special class placements, each of our classrooms is really geared towards a group of students. They have a certain profile or a certain level of need. For example, at the elementary level, I have 3 classrooms that is geared towards students that fall on the autism spectrum, and they have significant concerns with communication needs. So we might have speech language therapists that are pushing into the classroom to do co-instruction to target those needs. When we exhaust all of our services here in Binghamton and we find that we might need to access services outside of the district, this is where we look for out-of-district placement. So this is looking at your BOCES programs. This is looking at SUNY CUTE, the Institute for Child Development. They have a specialized program for students with autism, but it might be looking at Children's Home as well to provide support for students. These are typically classrooms that are 811 or smaller and are really targeting the specific needs for a small group of students, whatever that may be, depending on their needs on their IEP. Sometimes there are some students that have home instruction or hospital instruction. I have a couple of students this year that are on home instruction due to medical reasons. They are unable to come into school because their immune systems are depressed to the point where being in exposure to other students would increase their risk of hospitalization. So while they're being cared for at home, we are providing home instruction for those students. We also have students that have been in hospital placements. Tia has a student that had a significant traumatic event that impacted with his TBI, and that child has to receive their instruction within the hospital setting. We do have a couple of students over the years that might have needed more residential placement. This is looking for those students that typically have such significant needs that not only do they need a program to address their academics, they also need a program to address their adaptive and daily living skills. So they really need a very structured environment to be able to address that. Throughout all of these placements, some of our students might need paraprofessional or aid support. We embed that in no matter where they are on that continuum of supports just to ensure that they're successful. And then all of our students in our district are able to access occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, and counseling. Again, Binghamton is one of the largest districts in the region, and we do have a robust array of services, and we really have a fantastic staff of related service providers that are working diligently and are really key members in their buildings when it comes to looking at the supports to provide for students. So not just as a provider, but also as a collaborator. So we are still in the process of looking at Beds Day data. This happens every year. I just wanted to highlight the last 2 years just to show that our numbers of students with disabilities stays for the most part in a very consistent range. What the Beds Day data is used for is at the state level, it looks at the number of students with disabilities that a district has, where they are in their placement, but also looking at how are they classifying students and what percentage are falling within the different classification areas. In New York State, there are 13 approved classifications that can be given to a student based on their profile, and those are the 13 that are up there, and you can see our breakdown. I will say that one of the areas that we've seen a significant increase in over the years is this number of students with a classification of autism. This is something we're seeing in the community as well. A couple of reasons behind that might be that we are becoming better at recognizing when children have autism, but also there are providers out there that are helping our families to steer them to where can you get that diagnosis, or here's a resource for you to address that need. So I think we're starting to see that everyone knows more about that, and instead of what might be classified as maybe as an emotional disability or another health impairment, we are looking at more of this is a child that presents with autism. So again, our classification rate has stayed about the same. So enrollment does change over the years, right? We see that overall in our total enrollment, but it's just interesting to see that for students with disabilities in our district, we're staying pretty stagnant. We are pretty much within a range of 20, 50, maybe 75 students. So that's pretty consistent over the years.
Okay, so some of the resources that we offer are pathways at the middle school and high school level. I came in front of the board about 3 years ago, and I promised that we would start a work-based learning pathway at the high school to support students with IEPs to have a different option to go towards graduation. So I am proudly here to stand in front of you. The Velvet and I have worked diligently to develop a partnership with Community Options and Access VR. And we have a fully running work-based learning program with a work-based learning coordinator at Binghamton High School, which really truly helps our students with disabilities, students with IEPs, have a better pathway to graduation. It just opens more doors for them. So some things I want to highlight about our work-based learning program is all of our students grade 9 through 12 that have an IEP are either enrolled in a career exploration class or they participate in a community options small group instruction session. What that means is that they may touch base with our community or our work-based learning coordinator or community options coordinator, and they talk about personal finances, communication in the workplace, job safety, money banking, and budgeting. But the best thing about it is in 9th grade, all students with IEPs create a career plan. That career plan follows them 9th through 12th grade, whether they're at BOCES, whether they're at Children's Home, whether they're at Binghamton High School. Once the student creates the career plan, the work-based learning coordinator identifies potential work sites for the student, and that could be in-house or that could be a job out in our community. We have a lot of students working at the Binghamton University or for the city. Students can be paid and are paid through community options, which is super exciting with our partnership. That's a big win for the Binghamton City School District. We have job coaches available, and we have just a great deal of partner sites. When I first came to you 3 years ago, I was on a committee with agencies and employers from all over the community, and they want our students to come and work for them, to be involved with them. They want to provide help and support, and this pathway is really supporting our students. Once a student goes into 12th grade, they're required to transition to Access VR, which is a great thing because after high school, Access VR can stay with them in college and with an employer. I've had Access VR pay for driving lessons for a student. They provide a job coach if needed. Access VR is pivotal for our students to gain true employment within our community. It's an exceptional program. And again, I gave you a couple of bullets how that process works. There is an application, but our special education teachers, we call them advisors at the high school, really oversee that and make sure that happens. And then the work-based learning coordinator and I make sure we're working in partnership with Access VR so this can happen outside of our building. Okay, but it's not just in the community. We also have it in-house. We just passed our transition indicator 13, which means it's also weaving down into the middle school, and I have some middle school teachers here that can attest that we are compliant with our work-based learning threads throughout our IEP. Our students are having more voice about what their goals and pathways are, especially what they want to do within their IEP and at their CSE meetings. I'm very proud of my teachers and my staff, and I'm just really excited about this program. So in-house, we have volunteering opportunities. We have opportunities for students to participate in government and civic engagement. There's job shadowing, career research, and the use of the Pathful platform as a career awareness reflection database, essentially, that our guidance counselors are now connecting with, our special education teachers, and the work-based learning coordinator, and Access VR and community options. It's mind-blowing. We just should all be really excited about this. So that's today what I wanted to talk about in terms of opening pathways for our students with IEPs and the resources that we have to offer. Back to Velvet.
So before we had talked about that breakdown of where students are, so I thought it would be good to see currently where our students are outside of district program and talk a little bit about what these programs look like. So the MOVE program is a very specialized program for students that have significant disabilities that impact their ability to move around in their environment. Many of the students in this program lack that general mobility and rely on a lot of different adapted equipment, wheelchairs, different things to be able to help them to access an education. So it's very specifically targeted to that specific group of students. Our PALS program outside of district is really geared towards students that have significant delays with cognitive functioning, but also with communication. So these are children that are going to be graduating with a skills and achievement credential. What that means is they won't be graduating with a diploma, but they'll still be able to access some of those resources with community learning, being able to go out and see what it's like to hold a job, different activities like that. The Oak Tree program is a program that's built around students that fall within that autism spectrum. So again, really tailored to the profile of those students and building in a lot of supports. Our BOCES program uses the TEACH program, which is very guided in the day-to-day interactions for students that fall on the autism spectrum. Futures program, which is a secondary program, is really working on having these students have a long-term plan to leaving high school. These are kids that are going to be graduating with a diploma and moving on either to the workforce or even to college. Crossroads is one of our placements. These typically are for students that might struggle more with behavior and have that dysregulation. So the purpose of the program is to really target and build the skills for students so that they can take on that self-regulation and help to better monitor their behavior in the hopes that we'd be able to bring them back into district. Reclaim program is a very specialized therapeutic program. This is the smallest you can get. It's a classroom of 6 students. And this program is really tied to the social emotional learning of the child. And this is where they focus on more of a clinical aspect. So this is providing the mental health support, both on an individual setting, but also in a small group setting and within the classroom. So it's a really holistic approach to address the mental health needs of some of our students. Adolescent Day Treatment is another very specialized program that's run through Broome Tyler Bostius, but also in partnership with the Office of Mental Health. This is a very specialized, another clinical type program where they have built-in psychologists, they also have social workers, they have a psychiatric nurse. This is more for those students that are presenting at a secondary level, typically they're high school students that need the support of an all-inclusive approach to address their mental health needs. So we were very fortunate that our BOCES also has a broad continuum of services for us to access. In addition to that, again, we have our SUNY program, which is a program run by Binghamton University. Again, it addresses students that fall on the autism spectrum. And they actually provide programming from age 3 all the way up to age 12. So not only do they provide services at the school age level, they also are one of our providers under CPSE. They are also one of the best resources in our community when we have a go-to about, well, how do we address the needs of the student that might have autism, and they are able to help and give us some guidance on that. They also do partner with some of our families through our Committee on Preschool Education. Currently at Children's Home, we have 16 students in that program. That is another therapeutic program, again, the smallest ratio possible, but again, very inclusive of the mental health supports that some of our students need to be able to function. And again, our hope is always that students, once they receive the treatment and are regulated, we can look at moving back to something less restrictive. Again, we have a couple of students that are in a hospital placement due to circumstances, and one student currently in residential. This can fluctuate over the year, but I thought this would be a good kind of capstone of what does our population of students look like today. So last and not least, preschool special education. There's a lot of I think highlighting that takes place of school age special education and all the supports that are out there, but I think there's a growing need in our community, and we have seen over the years an increased need for services through the Committee on Preschool Special Education. Binghamton is an approved 4410. What does that mean? That means we are an approved evaluator and provider of services to students who are age 3 and age 4. So we provide a lot of supports, but we also work with our community-based organizations. So this is the Helping Children Achieve Association. This is working with Family Enrichment Network. But this is also working with individual contracted providers that are in the community. We have G&E and Jumpstart Therapy. So it really is a variety of providers in the community that are targeting our students at that 3 and 4 year level. What we have seen over the years is that, there is a greater and greater need. If you look at our 22-23 data, we had 139 students. That means they were age 3 and age 4 active in receiving some form of special education service under preschool or on the wait list to receive those services. Last year we had 192. You can see right now, year to date, as of December 1st, we have 145. There's a growing need in our community for special education support. So we have been writing letters and going to Albany and working with our providers and the other community providers to really advocate for New York State to increase funding in this area because of what we're seeing as trends as things move along. School districts definitely are going to be facing, the need is becoming greater than ever. So, any questions?
Thank you. I just want to point out a couple of things because both Tia and Velvet are magnificent in what they do. When you think about overseeing 1,000 young people, age 4 through 22, it's a tremendous effort that they put forward. And I did a quick calculation, if I'm correct, approximately 18% of our identified population is serviced by BOCES. I think sometimes we think special education, their needs can be supported by BOCES program, but only 18% of also. That just speaks to the continuum of services that this district provides special education. Not every district does that. They may not have no or very few self-contained classrooms, for example. Their PAL students go directly to BOCES for programming, and they don't offer those services within the district. So years ago, we started to build on our continuum, and so I'm proud that we offer these services. But on the other hand, we're one of those places where I know Tia and Bill are getting calls saying, "Do you have any openings?
Yes.
Can we send our special education student to you? We'll pay a tuition fee to support them." So I want to underscore the need and how real that is. And the work that they do to try to get students off of home teaching, particularly those who transfer into us, and we say, we don't have an opportunity for you here. We don't have an opportunity to meet your needs at BOCES because it's their fault. Area superintendents are working with BOCES to advocate for opening up more opportunities for students, so we have no students on waiting lists and no students, ideally, being home taught rather than being in a placement, but they extend that tremendously. The other thing I wanted to say, kind of a question, but I think I know the answer. When we look at the pre-K numbers, preschool numbers, for 3 and 4-year-olds and 4 to K, I know when I worked in that arena before, it was incredible how many students were identified for related services at such a young age, and then came into our kindergarten spaces and no longer needed support. I mean, it was over 50%. Typically. So in other words, we would provide speech services to an incoming 3-year-old to our pre-K program or 4-year-old program. Because the district was providing that support outside of any pre-K grant, that was preventing a special education service to have to be provided to that student and later on. Same thing with OT and PT. So I know they do a great job with supporting that any way we can. There's never enough money in the universal pre-K grants to support integrated classrooms or, expanding on E&L services or OT or occupational therapy or physical therapy or those kinds of things. And so we really utilize the existing resources to take advantage of every opportunity. But that advocacy is real. If as we move to have, universal pre-K for everyone, more support is needed there because it already has impacted incoming kindergarten students who don't have any experience or their needs have not been able to be met because of a lack of providers in early years. And then our kindergarten classroom teachers are faced with a multitude of challenges, particularly with populations that don't typically have that structure before they go to school.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
They're full of data, so if you ever have any data questions, they would be jumping on it.
Next up is a discussion on the regionalization initiative, and we'll turn it over to our superintendent.
Thank you. Regionalization is an initiative from our, I think it's a combination of Governor and Commissioner of Education looking at future education budgets. The Governor's looking carefully, just received the report on foundation aid, and it's going to be looking at that, I believe, with her cabinet in terms of what kind of recommendations can be made to revising that formula. And also in kind of an effort to be thinking about how we can collaborate more as school districts. This initiative was put forward. Since then, and we were told by state education officials, superintendents, that there was a lot of thought put into this, but clearly not enough, because as it was pushed out to the field, there were districts across the state that were feeling like this is a mandate, that smaller districts were going to be required to consolidate, that it was interpreted because it was required for school districts to submit a very lengthy report, which I have forwarded on board as a huge document of data. I have not yet submitted this, and the reason I didn't submit it is because it was due in early December, but just before it was due to click the button, the commissioner put out a memo saying, just to be clear, you do not have to do this. You do not have to engage in completing the report, although ours was pretty much done. And you do not have to, boards of educations and school districts can elect to not engage in this work. So before I clicked any buttons, I wanted, and we had an upcoming board meeting, I wanted the opportunity for me to explain a little bit more about what this really means, because I learned a lot more. We recently met as superintendents with the support of Rebecca Stone, our DS, and she explained a little bit more about what this is. Just because you submit the report doesn't mean that you have to regionalize anything. And just because you're sitting at the table having conversations doesn't mean you have to participate in anything. And it's not an all for one. Meaning, if the region decides to do some regionalization around transportation, if it doesn't benefit Binghamton, we don't have to do it. But maybe it benefits Shenango Valley and Shenango Forks because they're in close proximity, and it makes sense for them to try to work through. Jeff Matheson, who's new to the Department of Education, came and met with us and went through a couple of different scenarios. He just wanted to reassure that if you click the button, that just means that you're interested in being at the table. It does not mean anything beyond that. The data that was collected includes information on academic success. We had to also put in information around the programs that we offer, which we offer a plethora. It also included means of engaging students. It was an attendance/engagement, so things like clubs, our sporting events, our musical programs, how are we engaging students around that? We also had to submit data on capacity, so how many were the people that you have working with that? Are there things that, if you had to reduce your budget, what are you most proud of? But if you had to reduce your budget, what would you have to kind of let go of or not do anymore? Or would you look for opportunities to collaborate with other districts? All that and in between, as well as transportation and facilities. So I want to open up to any more questions around the regionalization initiative. It was not intended to be like, now every BOCES is its own school district, and here's the BT school, the Tioga school district, and consolidate that way. But it really was to give people a reason and some data to be facilitated by our district superintendent, Rebecca Stone, to say, what are some things you want to look at? I will tell you, one of the things that I put on the table and advocated for immediately was transportation, and particularly around homeless students who may be sitting in other school districts. Is there a way for us to do a transportation study and put all of our data kind of in the pot and have an outside look, individual or company look at that and say, here are some opportunities that you could take advantage of. And then additionally, what this will also do is challenge the state education department. If we think that there's a rule that exists that's preventing regionalization, they will then take that into consideration and help us address that. So going back to the transportation example, if for some reason, let's say Binghamton was, or let's say Vestal's going to provide the buses for homeless students, but one of those students lived, within less than 2 miles, and they were a secondary student, and technically they shouldn't be, transported. Does that would that be a barrier for us, or are we going to transport them anyway for aid purposes? So there's some rules that exist around transportation, or maybe we want to start transporting pre-K students because right now we don't. As a school district, other school districts do. So maybe we want to try to collaborate on that. There's a variety of things that could come out of a study like that. If there's any barriers, they have said to us, bring them to us, and then we'll work on eliminating those so that you can help reduce the cost and the impact ultimately to your community, but still be able to maintain some level of programs. The last thing I'll say before I stop talking and then turn it over to the board for questions or comments is that I was also very concerned when this first came about, because I would argue we have the largest offerings of courses and opportunities and pathways in this region because we have that many different needs and interests. What I didn't want to have happen is some of our things that we've invested heavily in to then be able to be accessible to students outside the district and start to create, not intended, but to try to start to create a disparity so that things that our students would typically be able to access, they aren't able to, or now we have to share them because we were able to add to that capacity. So, we have from our International Baccalaureate programs to our Rod Sterling School of Fine Arts, for example, are two fine examples. Our Project Lead the Way courses. If we have openings, that's one thing. But if we didn't have the openings, or we had somebody else who just wanted 2 slots, does that ultimately take away the potential 2 years from now of those 2 slots for our students? So, we have to really look carefully at with the academic programs, and what those outcomes could be like. Now, if we're at thinking that we're not going to have any of them because we can't afford them, that's different. If there's a way for us to share, maybe Vestal has IB, Binghamton has IB, maybe there's an IB course that we've always wanted to offer, and we have an IB course that they've always wanted to offer, and we can collaborate around that, and that kind of thing that could happen. But really what this means, I wanted to pause and have the opportunity for the board to ask any questions before I make a recommendation to move forward with this.
I guess I'll go first. I have a couple more comments and questions, and it just really is interesting to see how this process has evolved, and it's not exactly the smoothest way of getting the information out. I think about when I first started to hear about it was maybe back in October and went to the NISBA convention, and then just through different updates, and it's like, oh, you come to find out it's not compulsory for us to participate, even to send in the questionnaire, which was, I don't want you to feel like you did it for your health. It was really, I did take a look at the whole thing over the weekend, and I saved part of it, I saved the entire section apart from the board run it was attached to, because I felt it was a really valuable snapshot of just all the different things going on within the district. Some things I learned on there that were new to me, and others not, just because so much information is shared, all been packaged together, and to see it in that presentation style, I think was really illuminating. And I'm for this to the extent that it actually will benefit us. If we can see some efficiencies, cost savings, things that increase the quality of the programming, great. If something's not a good deal for us, then it's certainly worth exploring and getting that feedback, and then just saying we'll walk away from it and we're not any worse off. And hopefully things that would save us money and not turn out to be false economies, because it becomes like a lot of other things sometimes. It's how it'll be a cost savings, it'll be this and that, and then you find out it's really none of those things, and you wind up in worse shape than you were. And I'm glad it's not a mandate. We see plenty of things where we're told we have to do this and figure it out. You don't get any extra money to do it. In fact, your foundation aid may go down, or there's some other downside that comes to it, and you've got to patch it together in a way that really doesn't serve anyone's interests. So that's just my 2 cents on that. I'd be eager to hear what others have to say.
I guess I would say overall, I think we, especially as a board, need to be looking at like big picture stuff and future stuff. I think a lot in the future is really unknown right now of how things will play out in education. Sometimes when I'm at my house in Binghamton, I see like a Vestal bus drive by me, or a JC bus or whatever, and I think there's a lot of those things, whether it's homeless students or whatever's going on, that definitely could be coordinated. I think our enrollment everywhere is down if we take a look at our community. So yes, we have to put Binghamton first and the school district first, but we're also members of this larger community. And I think as enrollment goes down, I don't see anything where tons of people are moving in to our area in general. I think we have to be thinking 5 and 10 years ahead of what things will look like. And I think it can be a great opportunity, for our kids and for our district. And I was going to say something else and I don't remember. Oh, the other thing is the issue of homelessness. I think we all need to get together, every single person in Broome County and in this district. The fact that we have any student homeless is shameful, and it should be not okay, and should be all of our first priorities. And I know I talk to people in different districts, and they also start to tell me, oh, well, technically he's not homeless, he lives on somebody's couch. Like, that's not okay, and that is homeless. And so, I hope that that's something maybe all the boards could come together about, or I don't know who all the people are, all the social services, but it seems like we're redoing 8 million things instead of, like, in a way, doing what's globally best for our kids. Like, yes, our Binghamton kids, for sure, but like I don't live that far from JC kids or any kids in our community. So those are my 2 cents. Or
not only do you see all those different school district buses rolling through on the west side, every district is sending kids to the ICD at Binghamton University every day. And so I think about from some of these outlying areas, just the transportation costs have to be enormous, and probably not transporting a lot of kids in the process. And that to me, and it's just the most obvious is an area where I think I'd like to explore how that could benefit us as transportation. Not just because of the comments we had last month, though that certainly was disturbing to listen to, but in particular since we came out of COVID and got the kids back in the buildings, we've had a lot of problems with getting the kids bused and getting them on time, and the bus companies have had a ton of troubles in getting appropriate people to work and drive the buses. So that's just been, a thorn in the side for going on almost like 5 years now. It'd be great to get some clarity around that.
Well, as they start talking about going to electric buses, I don't know of any district that feels like they have the money, the resources, the room, it's facing everybody, and so I think that's something else to come together on.
And thoughts? And when the other thought that I wanted to share was that we often will talk at cabinet about resources, and take community schools for example, because I was heavily involved in that initiative when I first came to the region. And how can we work with community partners? You heard tonight with the Behavior Task Force the concept of a DSS family liaison, and that was Binghamton grown. We're the only district, I believe, Maine End only have one, but the first district to do it in New York State, and one that certainly has the largest numbers. And there's an example of collaboration that financially benefited us because we pay the local share that comes to a community when you have a DSS caseworker. So the state provides a certain, about 85% of the salary. The local community, or the county in this case, provides the other 15%. So I went to DSS, I said, we'll pay the 15%. That's fine, I'll pay 15% of the salary benefit package. If that gives me one whole person to be dedicated in my district, to be the conduit between DSS and our buildings. And that was a great example. Another example, of course, the Medicare Advantage plan, where we worked with the county on what they were offering. That was rewarded, that was incentivized. The incentive here, I think, is to be more mindful about our budget. And as Liza just said, what does it look like 5, 10, 15 years down the line? I would also add that our facilities across the region are being looked at. As Liza said, every district is losing enrollment. We are absolutely, as I've said many times, continue to lose students each year. But our facilities could be repurposed in some way. An example of that is Shenango Forks had a whole section of a building wing, and that's where a pathway for working on new batteries has been created. And so students now can go to Shenango Forks. We have 4 students and participate in that BOCES run program in that school district. So those are the other kind of, it's not necessarily always looking at what we're currently doing, it's just thinking, what are we going to be providing students in the future, and how can we collaborate on that. When there's a farm, they collaborate with Harpersville, and those 2 districts are sharing around a farming pathway. So, and I mentioned Vestal Binghamton is an IB possibility. One of the things though, when that happens now, it's usually up between the 2 districts, and there's not, you can't run through BOCES for aid. So whether the states are interested in incentivizing it that way or not, I'll certainly be advocating for that. Because there are all sorts of coasters that are worded a certain way where that has to be a shared service among more than one district, but in that case it's just between 2 districts. Is there BOCES oversight there? And then often what has to happen in that case, if we're going to get aid, is the individuals teaching the course have to become BOCES employees. And then that incentivizes us because we certainly would love that IB teacher, and Vestal would love that IB teacher, and not want to give up everything that they've accrued over time in their districts, right, as faculty, to become BOCES employees and start maybe at the bottom of their seniority level. So I would be advocating for that. So that's another example of a barrier, but I appreciate your input. I am going to recommend that I move forward with clicking the button. The data is already there. I think I have 3 paragraphs to kind of finish. That just says Binghamton's is listening, right, and at the table. Liza, you
I
said?
was gonna say, also, I think, when COVID happened, everybody's reaction was, we have to reinvent schools, and like, clearly this is a thing where traditional schooling isn't working for everybody, and we should reimagine things, and then we got back in school, and everybody just said, let's get back to usual, and really things didn't fundamentally change, and so maybe, I don't know, I'm hopeful this could be a vehicle to fundamentally change some things, because I think schools also do what they did because they always did it, and they always did it, and now you're 40 years into, nobody knows why you always did it, but go ask Martha, because we always did it that way, but that's in every district everywhere. So, but also I think kids have changed, and you'll hear it from teachers at every level. COVID did a lot of damage that, districts are still dealing with and will be dealing with, and even if it's not through this committee, but there's some kind of vehicle for us to use, I hope we take advantage of reimagining things for our kids.
I think I would point to the Patriot Academy down the hall, where we're educating kids a little bit differently, and looking to see what they need and getting their needs met at the same time giving them an education, but it's not on a bell schedule, right? And sometimes it's a combination of person and virtual. And so when we think about some of the things we've been able to do out of necessity to support kids, that's what I'm thinking about too. Maybe it's still a little bit too traditional, but it's still another model. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could figure this out so that students, when they hit their senior year, all have some level of work-based experience, whether that's be authentic in the community or within our own school system. That would be fantastic. And also, we also talked about superintendents, the new graduation pathways. And so we've even begun to think about and understand that as we, still have regions, but maybe some of those aren't going to be part of someone's pathway. What else is there? And how are we going to have the capacity to be able to have those variety of pathways so that kids can now graduate, but now graduate with something that they really love or think they love to do as much as you can when you're 17 and 18 and graduating. And that's gonna take every district to look at maximize their resources. So that would be another kind of rationale.
I was gonna say, I definitely think that we should have a seat at the table. I think we can't know what we don't know, and I think that because this is so new, I think that there's probably a lot out there to explore that we might not even be imagining what could be possible yet. And maybe those ideas will come from other districts, maybe they'll come from us, from other ideas when we're at the table. But I think it's too soon to be able to know what could possibly be without at least sitting there and hearing and listening and being involved in that discussion. But I just think I support that.
Well, I appreciate the conversation and the support, and I'll keep the board updated in terms of any next steps. I know Rebecca Sniglin had 2 dates in the future. Has already started to work on doing a COSER to support that transportation study. So I know that's definitely one that's moving forward, but other things more to come. Thank you.
Moving on now to the second public comment portion of the meeting. I don't think anybody coming forward, but I have to offer it up anyway. Would anybody like to come and speak? Going once, twice, okay. New business, superintendent's recommendations, certified C resolutions. Could I have a motion, please, on resolution C1 through C11? Moved by Shante first, and then seconded by Tim. And we've got a couple of retirements to read. Tim, could you please read C1?
Whereas Richard Zabadal has served the Binghamton City School District faithfully and continuously since September 5th, 1995 as a kindergarten teacher, and whereas Richard Zabadal has submitted his intention to retire effective at the end of the day on June 30th, 2025.
Thank you. I'll take C2, retirement, Patricia Fiato. Whereas Patricia Fiato has served the Binghamton City School District faithfully and continuously since September 8th, 1992 as a kindergarten and first grade teacher, and whereas Patricia Fiato has submitted her intention to retire effective at the end of the day, June 30th, 2025. I'll take the next one, retirement, Joanne Summerly. Whereas Joanne Summerly has served the Binghamton City School District faithfully and continuously since September 8th, 1998 as a 6th grade science teacher, and whereas Joanne Summerly has submitted her intention to retire effective at the end of the day, June 30th, 2025. And Marianne, could you please take C4?
Whereas Kelly O'Sullivan has served the Binghamton City School District faithfully and continuously since September 5th, 1995 as a sixth grade teacher, and whereas Kelly O'Sullivan has submitted their intention to retire effective at the end of the day on June 30th, 2025. Now therefore be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools that the Board of Education does and hereby accepts their request for retirement, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education extends to Kelly O'Sullivan its sincere thanks and the thanks of the community for their efforts on behalf of the students of the district, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education extends to them its sincere wishes for a long, happy, and prosperous retirement.
Thank you, and with that, I think we're ready to proceed to a roll call vote.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button? Yes. Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. Certified stipend CS resolutions. Could I have a motion, please, on resolution CS1 through CS3? Moved by Tim, seconded by Eliza. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button? Yes. Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. Non-certified NC resolutions. Could I have a motion, please, on resolutions NC1 through NC12? Moved by Tim, and I'll second. We have a few retirements here. Carrie, could you please read the first paragraph on NC1?
Whereas Stephen Terwilliger has served the Binghamton City School District faithfully and continuously since December 17th, 2014 as a building maintenance mechanic, and whereas Stephen Terwilliger has submitted their intention to retire effective at the end of the day on December 13th, 2024.
Thank you. Shante, would you mind reading the first paragraph on NC2? Oh. Okay.
I got it. Whereas Dennis Gotez has served the Binghamton City School District faithfully and continuously since December 18th, 2019 as a building maintenance mechanic, and whereas Dennis Gotez has submitted their intention to retire effective at the end of the day of December 20th, 2024.
Thank you. Liza, could you please take the first paragraph on NC3?
Whereas Colleen Crane has served the Binghamton City School District faithfully and continuously since June 9, 2008 as a typist, and whereas Colleen Crane has submitted their intention to retire effective at the end of the day on December 31st, 2024.
Thank you, and I'll do NC4, retirement. Lisa Pertenza, whereas Lisa Pertenza has served the Binghamton City School District faithfully and continuously since October 29, 2001 in food service, and whereas Lisa Pertenza has submitted her intention to retire effective at the end of the day, January 6, 2025. Now therefore be it resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools that the Board of Education does and hereby accepts their request for retirement, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education extends to all of the above-mentioned individuals our sincere thanks and the thanks of the community for their efforts on behalf of the students of the district, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education extends our sincere best wishes for a long, happy, and prosperous retirement. And with that, I think we're ready for a roll call vote.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button? Yes. Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. And the general G resolutions. Could I have a motion, please, on G2 through G6? Moved by Tim, seconded by Carrie. We have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan? Yes. Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button? Yes. Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. And it brings us to updates from the superintendent.
Okay, thank you. I have quite a number because December is a busy month with lots going on. So first of all, I just want to give a big shout out for all our concerts, dance performances, winter celebrations that have been going on. They have been just tremendous. I had the pleasure last week to hand out cookies to kindergarten students at MacArthur. Thank you to Pam Elliott who made a cookie. To all students at MacArthur, but not only did he make like traditional sugar cookie that was dipped in sugar, but also a gluten-free cookie and then an allergy-free cookie. So she thought every student, it was really quite touching. The teacher and me kicked in. I had to honestly look at them and say, because they wanted to just grab, use your eyes first and then your hands, and just came right out of my mouth. I said, yes, I still have it. So it was just wonderful. But there truly are tremendous celebrations. I'm also going to be coming back in January, working with Dave Chilson to start to have our first parent meeting regarding Roosevelt. Yay, that it passed, but just start to inform parents and what the next year and a half is going to look and feel like, and then the year and a half following that, just to get so we're going to put a plan in place. There are many events that he has, arts partners nights, those kinds of things that I want to take advantage of when families are already going to be in this space, so we get as many people in the room. We do have the formulation of a transportation task force as a subcommittee of the district safety team. Eric is going to be leading that, being supported by leadership from First Student and Megan Gary. He's meeting and speaking with a spokesperson from last month to kind of make sure the agenda is going to be, the first meeting is going to address the major issues and concerns they have, everything from training of our aides and bus drivers, down to the processes and protocols they have in place that will be reviewed. And that committee's first meeting will take place in January, so I'm excited for that to happen. Speaking of transportation, our RFP went out. It's due in January 17th. Thank you. Due back on January 17th. It went out to a multitude of vendors, this list of vendors, same vendors that we sent out last year. So I don't know that we'll get a plethora of return, but maybe others will be looking for longer term contracts to take even a portion of that, of our transportation over. I also want to mention that over the weekend, the temperature bill passed. You may have seen that from NISBA. This was the bill to make sure that districts have processes and procedures in place when temperatures in classrooms hit certain levels. So more to come. I'm sure there'll be more regulations that come out and guidance for that. So we'll talk more about that. I also want to mention that we had a great meeting with the mayor a couple weeks ago, and as an outcome, look at my notes because a lot came out from that. There are several initiatives that we're going to be working on, and I met with cabinet as well as PR to start these moving. The first one's seniors serving seniors, so we're looking for some groups at the high school to articulate maybe going to our senior center over on the first floor, starting there and then finding out some other places to do that. Expansion of our Harper Stands cleanup to include businesses. So right now, what a teacher did last year I thought was brilliant. She came in with her group and she had a map of part of West Middle School and then the West Side, and she drew a line and said, this is the area we're going to do, because quite frankly, our facilities are well maintained by our custodians now. So when we did the cleanup around all the schools, they kind of did that quickly. And then we had people like Steve here going down side streets and coming back. I think he thought there was a contest, whoever had the heaviest bag won a prize. But to organize that and expand that. And so that was really kind of talking to the city and saying, how can we, get back to our businesses? So I look forward to that expansion. Working with the neighborhood watch committees, groups, and having students attend those meetings. That came from that meeting was a wonderful suggestion. And so that our neighborhood watch groups could get to know our students and get insight from our students. So I have someone working on that. And soon to come, I'm going to learn more about the National Issues Forum that Mary Ann brought to my attention as soon as we have an opportunity to figure that out. And I'm sure we may even put that on an agenda in the future to talk about.
What they've been doing, so that what is relevant for us.
Great.
I can bring you those things.
Fantastic. So really excited about that. It was a very fruitful meeting that I attended with Steve and Mary Ann, and I think there's a lot of automatic kind of things we can do, but more importantly, we're going to learn from them to help really support one another as a city, and school district and larger community. I want to mention this Friday. I typically don't send a boardroom, but I am going to, because there's so many messages going out before the break. I just want you to be aware of all that's being communicated and a couple of highlights. So I typically don't. Otherwise, it's not going to be for like almost 4 weeks because there's this week and then the 2-week break and then a week. So Simon and I were talking, so some things I want to make sure that you see. And I'm going to mention it now, but it will be in the boardroom. On January 3rd, there's a home basketball game against Seed. And it is going to be celebrated as a commemorative game, celebrating the 40 years, of the last 40 years, yes, 40, the last time Binghamton High School won the state championship. And so more to come on that I'll share, but we're bringing back some of the players. We're going to be there honoring them, and I'm really excited about that. I think that's going to be awesome. And I think that's it for right now.
40 years is too long. We need another one really, really soon. And the first home game, I believe, is this Friday.
Liza, were you on the cheer team, Liza? Would you like to? Oh, I just thought I would ask.
Here's a pro tip: if you ever wind up doing the neighborhood cleanup, and I learned this the hard way, is that what you don't want to do is start filling your bag as you're near the school and go further out, because you get a really heavy bag to bring back. So I do it the opposite. I walk the empty bag far away and start filling it up as I come back, and it's a lot easier. So, and I made hard work of nothing the first time around, and I learned the second time. So. I was not able to be at the meeting last week where we certified the vote, but it was great to see that not only that Roosevelt passed by such an overwhelming margin, but that we had a good amount of voters that came out to support it. So just all around, really want to send a strong message around the fact that we were able to get this done, and so very appreciative of that. And with that, I would say that's quite enough for tonight. Our next meeting is going to be January 28th. We'll have the school recognition with Ben Franklin, a look at the BOCES administrative capital budget, our usual this time of year sort of thing with district fiscal stress and overview of financial status. Certainly is one of the pieces that takes us into the next budget cycle, and a report from the attendance task force. And with that, I'd like to ask for a...
Okay,
yes.
I saw that there's going to be follow-up with, I can't remember his name, who we had the meeting with.
Sean.
Yes. Do we know more or less when Sean might be coming?
No, we don't, but I'm going to work with Sonia to get out and query.
It would be before the next board
Yes,
meeting?
yes. In
Okay.
January, there will be another board development session. Yes.
Okay.
I keep wanting to call them retreats, and as you remind me, your idea of retreat is not.
But you know,
you love us, but it's not the
there's
same.
always time to change.
Yeah, so we do have at least 2 sessions. We've got one in January, one in February that we had conversations about, and I put that in the board line, yes.
Thank you, sorry about that.
No.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second? Second by Tim. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Good night.
I